Got him. Got him. Big one. Big one, guys. Big one. Guys, this is a big one. Guys. Oh. Thanks. That is nuts. Oh my God. They're in here. Oh, that'll be good for the channel. Right there. I wish I had a damn scale, but at least got a camera.
Nicely done.
Thank you, sir.
About 3 5 pounds?
I'm thinking it's, yeah, at least 3. She's beautiful. And they're in here too.
Yeah, they stock these. That's a bass, right?
Yeah.
Go with trout. Go with trout. Go with trout. Go with trout.
Nope, that's a bass.
Thought. My first assumption was correct.
Yeah.
On my property, you didn't win shit in my yard.
Wait.
All of you.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
You're listening to Fishing the DMV with your hosts, Thomas Ahrens and Jared Mounts. Fishing the DMV is brought to you by Jake's Bait and Tackle, located in Winchester, Virginia.
If that doesn't get you jacked up, I don't know what will.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. We are here again doing a live stream. It has been far too long. The past couple of months have been an absolute insane blur. I think the last live stream I did where I sat here behind a mic and actually talked was Berkeley Springs, the Berkeley Springs Fishing Flea Market, to help support the Berkeley Springs High School fishing team. That was a lot of fun. And then we had the Northern Virginia Kayak, pimped out kayak show. First time, I'm going to say, in history of Northern Virginia that such an event actually took place. Before I get going today, could I get a mic check from my beautiful audience? Make sure I sound good before I start rambling like an idiot. Let's see. We got, yeah, I can fishing live. I can finally say I've seen someone catch something out of that park. Jim, hey, listen, that park in Winchester is absolutely money. There is a ton of big bass in there. It gets a lot of pressure. It's gin clear. And for some reason, I don't know why exactly, it never freezes. I am not kidding. That place actually never freezes. We got a great show tonight, everybody. All right. Sounding good. Fantastic. Awesome. We have a fantastic show tonight, everyone, in store. Got a couple of special guests that are going to be coming on here around 7 o'clock to be talking about the upcoming, it's kind of like a two-parter. As you all know, I try to do fishing reports, get on some really exciting guests from around this DMV metropolitan area, talk about the different lakes, rivers, places like that. Kerr Reservoir, Bugs Island is a place that's eluded me for some reason. That is the one lake that either no one wants to talk about it because it's so good or so bad, one of the two, but no one actually wants to come on and just talk about the lake. And so I was able to finally find some individuals to come on and talk about it, give a fishing report, and also kind of prelude to the Bassmaster Open there. I listened to the Bassmaster podcast today about it. It was fantastic. It was a 3-hour conversation. They talked about the lake for about 5 minutes. So what can you say there? Luckily, the water will be in the bushes. That's fantastic that they timed that right. I mean, who would have thought that they could time it that well? That's amazing, right? So we're going to be getting into that at 7 o'clock here. A little bit of a recap about everything. I've been hinting at doing these live streams more consistently now. And so this is something I'm going to be trying to do every Monday, if possible, to kind of recap episodes, recap questions I get on the week through the comment section. That way I can answer them here and go over, some of my fishing festivities that I've been doing. This year, as you guys know, I started to try to get back into tournament fishing again, but I'm starting super, super low key. I'm doing the Antietam Bassmaster. They're a great group of guys. They've been around since the 90s. They let me actually join. They were full and they still made a little bit of exception to let me get in there. And it's really cool because I actually get to fish the MLF catchway release format, which is actually a lot of fun. Every team or every boat, gets a scale and you get a golf cart. You weigh it, you guys agree on the weight, and then you kind of write it down in there and you go about your business. So it's a lot of fun to kind of scratch that itch, but not, mortgage the house right now and just kind of get back into tournament fishing. We've had 3 tournaments. I've missed the first one in Lake Anna because I was doing the live streaming for the Northern Virginia Kayak Association. We went to Raystown, amazing lake. I actually have a local coming on next week talking about Raystown because there's a chance in PA that will be the place that the next state record smallmouth is caught out of. When they have tournaments there in the spring, it takes 25 to 26 pounds of smallmouth out of Raystown Reservoir in PA. And if you've never heard of it, I never heard of it until I went up there and fished this past week. It's a beautiful place. I think I finished 5th in that one, and it was back in March, and it was cold. It was during that really, really bad El Nino storm that came in. It was snowing, winds 20 to 30 miles an hour. I ended up catching them just throwing a blade bait and sticking to a small area. And then that was good enough to get into the top 5. And then this past weekend was the mighty Potomac. And that's weird. I kind of made a little Instagram post on my private Instagram about it. I grew up fishing the Potomac. I fished high school tournaments, college there. And then I moved away, and away is basically, I'm like 2 hours away. And now it feels like an old friend that you haven't seen in a while. And she's grown up a little bit. She's different. She's not into the same music anymore. And it was interesting going back there. Plus there's about 6,000 kayaks because you had the KBF 2-dayer and then you had the NVKBA event. And huge shout out to Justin Longan. He had 88 inches in the NVKBA to win that sucker on Saturday. I think I have him scheduled this Thursday. I am interviewing somebody every single day this week. I think 5 days a week. I am going insane with this right now. And then you had the KBF event too. And then we're going to have that was over 100 inches, which is insane. And this kind of, before we switch gears at 7:00 to get into Kerr, this thing will be re-uploaded. It'll be re-uploaded tomorrow, hopefully. So if you guys do not catch the live stream, don't worry. This thing will be private, but it'll be cut with the fishing report for Kerr being re-uploaded tomorrow morning with good crisp audio, all the lags and stuff taken out of it. So that'll be all polished up for you guys. Other house things. I'm a little pitchy right now. This is why I like doing pre-recordings. So I get that pitchy. So people asked me in the last live stream I did, and I told them I would re-update them on this stuff. So basically every single year I do something different to try to improve myself as a fisherman. Last year, I pretty much committed the whole year. I only fished BFS equipment, trying to master that and learn that. This year I'm doing a 2-parter. I am trying to not only master the live scope deal, but I'm also trying to have a different approach to tournament fishing completely. And so what I'm doing is I need to pick one spot and stay there the whole time. And this was really because of Nolan Miner. And I was interviewing him last year. And then I also fished my first kayak event. And I really realized that we have this mindset when you have a 250 on the back that when they're not biting, you have to move. And I'm not saying, and this is not saying like one philosophy is different. I think the Brian Thrift approach works very well for a lot of people. But then you look at some of these Japanese anglers, and I've preached this to the hilt, that they're able to basically get water from a stone and how they're able to catch fish out of this thing. And so all the tournaments this year, I'm picking one place and I'm not moving. And for the Potomac, this is just fascinating to me, is like how many fish you can catch out of area. I stayed in Pohick Bay all day. And I had places at a Quiet Creek and Mattawoman I could have gone, but I said, like, I'm not going to leave. I'm going to stay here. And, I finished 5th, I think, in that event. And again, it's just, I'm blown away mentally how there are so many fish in an area. And if you're willing to just sit and grind it out, how you can find the juice and how those fish relocate throughout an 8-hour day. And the place I was fishing in Pohick, it was back right. And if you guys want, I can show mapping after we get through the Kerr fishing report, but you could just rotate through there and you can catch them again and again and again. And even though you were catching fish, your brain tells you, like, once you go through an area, it's like, well, clearly I have to leave now. Like, there's no more fish in this place. And it's such a weird, I guess, mental block that you have to get through, I think, as an angler, is to learn how to listen to the voices of when to stay, when to go, when to grind, when to run and gun. Because again, I really think for a lot of anglers, when they're making that step, and I've been blessed to have a lot of local sticks on. Todd Langford, he's a Virginia stick. Also had a fantastic guest on, Cole, who just won at Smith Mountain Lake. The approaches of running and gunning, doing the Brian Thrift. And I think that personally works once you know a place well enough that you can make that work. And just like in youth sports where there's a progression, there are steps that you got to take to get better. I think if you're first starting out, if you don't have the time to practice because you have a 9 to 5 job, I think learning how to find an area and pick it apart really will help you when you start doing tournament fishing. And then as you grow and you get years on a body of water and you've been to Smith Mountain Lake in April, let's just say, 10 years in a row, then you have the ability, maybe you have the confidence to spread out and do more running and gunning. But a lot of times it can be deadly picking an area and just milking it for everything it's worth. Bait wise, and then we'll get to the next part. Super easy. As you guys know, I need to get better with the chatterbait. And the people are going to kill me for this. Chartreuse Bandit. Chartreuse Bandit and then a Killer Bee. I mean, do I even have one of those? There it is. Killer Bee, Chartreuse Blueback. Now, I was getting some shit for this online. My crankbait setup for this on the Potomac is I go like inshore saltwater special. I use a big saltwater spinning reel, 15-pound straight braid, and I'll use a medium heavy rod with an extra fast tip. To be able to take this thing that weighs less than a quarter, I need to get maximum casting distance because I truly believe on the Potomac River, because of the pressure, because you have so many people in such a tight area, getting separation between you and the boat is key. And so what I was able to do is I was able to make 100 plus feet cast with these little things. And the spinning equipment allowed me to do that. Now, to be able to make sure I drove the hooks home, that's why I wanted that braid. Because a lot of those bites I was getting was in the first 10 to 15 feet of that crank. And when I've used fluorocarbon in the past for this, or a fluorocarbon to braid leader, I just had too much stretch and I felt like I didn't get good hook penetration. When I went straight to braid, I didn't have that issue. I was able to get those hooks home. And then plus I can boat flip a lot of these fish if they're hooked really well. And so that's really the key with me to using this setup. The other thing is I want a 5 gear ratio reel. You can get a 6 or 7 with saltwater tackle spinning rods if you want, but I want that slower one because I want to count every single rock when I do this. When you get it down there with that braid, you have so much sensitivity. You want to go as slow as you can and count every single rock with this. And then the last thing I do is I switch it out with triple grips. Triple grips are extremely important. I don't know how many times I had one fish just with one hook in the mouth, but I didn't have a problem because I upgraded my tackle. That's honestly with the baits that I did. Oh, and I did catch them on. People asked me about the mag draft thing. I did have one that came off, and this was another issue, is I stuck with my mag draft way too long. I did have one come on button with the mag draft, and my last fish came off of my BFS Ned rig setup. That is the balling out mini finesse head Japanese jig head right there. You can get that off Tackle Warehouse. That is fantastic for power fishing and Ned rig. And I just throw that just like a jig in places that you would really throw a shaky head or a jig. But what I like about that is it keeps it a compact setup for when those fish are starting to get on the beds. And again, any questions about that, guys, you can let me know. We have, let's see. Oh, sweet. I got Hunter back in the queue. Fantastic. Let me get through a couple of questions here before I get them on. Let's see. Jeremy, when should I make the move to fishing bigger tournaments? So Jeremy, I don't know how old you are, what you've been doing. I personally think, I could be wrong. I could be an idiot. I'm just a guy that talks on the internet. If you're fishing your local derbies, let's say you're fishing a local high school club or whatever on the Potomac River, and you're winning those tournaments, you might be thinking to yourself, great, I want to now jump up to the BFLs or something like that. I would also add one more thing. What is the winning weights in those local tournaments compared to something like the Potomac teams or a BFL? If you're winning your local derbies with 15 pounds, but a BFL or the Potomac teams is taking 25 easily every time, what I would suggest is set yourself a new goal, almost like if you're a high school pitcher. You're the best one on your team, and the average velocity for high school is like 85 to 90, but you're throwing 75. That's awesome that you're the best pitcher on your team, but set a new goal for yourself of getting up to that 85, 95 miles an hour first. That way, you're not going to be just hemorrhaging money to go to that next level, and you're going to have that mental negative baggage. Because if you go up too early and then you get your butt kicked, a lot of times you're going to be really down on yourself as an angler. And again, I can't stress that enough. You're going to save up the money. You're going to try it one time. You're going to get your butt kicked and you're going to be like, I don't want to do this anymore. Set that other goal of trying to be able to match the same weights that the big dogs are doing at the next level. And if you're feeling like you can crack that, okay, then actually maybe get that into consideration. But again, I'm just a guy that just talks on the old tube. You need to do more fishing videos. I do not have the time. I would love to. So 2 things on that. I am basically recording interviews 5 days a week now. So, and trying to fish every weekend. So I will figure that out. I'm probably going to have to start a secondary channel. I don't want my fishing videos taking away from fishing the DMV. Fishing the DMV is not about me. It's about the guests. It's about the area. So I'm thinking what I'll do is I'll start a secondary channel for people that are interested in watching me fish, but there's plenty of people else out there you can watch fish than me. But if that's something people want, I'll just start a second channel and do that. Also, you need to do, Matt, I'm doing it right now. Live streams are weird for the algorithm too. The algorithm is really weird. And I also, pre-recording is nice because it's a chill thing. Whenever the guests want to talk, we can talk. If there's something, if they have to run up and shut the door, let the dog in, I can edit that in post-production. It's just a more chill environment. And then also I can actually stack interviews, which is nice. Which that's why I'm able to be so consistent actually on YouTube. So there's a lot of benefits to doing pre-recording. And that's why Joe Rogan basically does it too. And he's the best at it. But live streams are also a lot of fun because I can communicate with you guys. So I'm trying to find the balance with that. Let me see. Anything else? Anything else I got to get to here? Yes. So the one thing I want to know is with this Kerr thing, I think this is fascinating. And I'll ask my guests about this a little bit. I've been blessed talking to people about the best lakes in Virginia, in Maryland, in DC, because there's a lot of good lakes. And I don't think Bass and FLW, MLF now, always pick the best ones. This past Smith Mountain Lake tournament, I felt like everything was just absolutely perfect. They hit it at the right time. They showed off this lake. And I really do think Smith Mountain Lake should be the one that has the Bassmaster Open if you had to pick a Virginia, Maryland body of water that's not the Potomac or the James, because it will show off very well. And so I don't know how much money actually went into this or not to be able to get them to go to Kerr. I know Kerr is big enough, but I don't know about these weights. The Bass podcast, they're talking about like they think it's going to really show out. But I think based on the people I've talked to, they think 13 to 15 pounds per day, maybe. And I also think it's really interesting that they're up in the bushes now. That lake fluctuates a lot. And that's kind of interesting that it's up in the bushes right now. But anyway, what do I know? Let me see if these, I'm going to go send these guys a private message, see if they're ready to come on. No, yeah, like that park is really good. I mean, there's a lot of good places. And that's the other thing. Oh, remind me that kid that messaged me at Jake's Bait Tackle. I'm gonna do a bank fishing seminar video. That was a really good idea about what to pack for bank fishing. Huge shout out to I think it was Big DTV. I know we might want to edit your YouTube name though a little bit there, boss. But no, huge shout out to you. That's a great idea. All right, so I think they are ready. Without a moment of ado, we got a power couple here. One guy, you probably know him because he had the coolest story on Smith Mountain Lake. And it really tells you about how decision making is so important. And when his boat was not doing too well, he called his shot, made an adjustment, and it was absolutely awesome. And Skittles for everybody. And the other guy, you might know him for his channel, but let's just get these here now. Yeah, I know. You need shirts that say "Taste the Rainbow" or something.
I know, dude. We're working on it. We might have to come up with something.
So we got Hunter Smith, guys, and we got Matt of SB Fishing. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. Thanks for having us on.
No, thank you guys for making this happen. You are Hunter. You're always welcome on here anytime. And then Matt, I mean, this is something that's been in the works. I've definitely wanted to get you on the show. But yeah, thanks so much for both of you guys this evening.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
You know it. We got Kerr coming up here. It's insane the amount of tournaments. I mean, you guys have as well. I mean, we have a BFL on the Potomac coming up. We have the Bass Open at Kerr. And then we have Kerr. I think it's the weekend after is your BFL back on Kerr. That poor lake gets absolutely just smoked. It's insane.
Yeah. And I think they have one or two tournaments the weekend after the final day of the Open too.
That's absolutely nuts. That's crazy. So let's do a little adjustment here. Could you guys adjust your camera because that's a fantastic view of your microwave?
Oh yeah, I had that set up just for you.
Yeah, because I don't see. I just lost everyone's
I
faces.
don't know which way to go. Let's try this.
Better. Let's do this.
I think you get a little bit closer.
Let's do this. Perfect.
A little bit better.
Yeah, perfect.
Cool.
That's much better. Thank you, guys. Again, this is why we do pre-recording too, guys. So don't worry. If you guys want to see this again, it'll be up on the re-upload tomorrow morning. Yeah, going into it with Kerr, like I really wanted to start with just a vague understanding of the lake for people up here in Northern Virginia and Maryland don't really understand it. Kerr is the biggest lake, I believe, in the Roanoke system of lakes. Is that correct?
Yep. Yeah, I think it might be the biggest lake in like Virginia, probably.
You might be right.
The place
I'm
is
not
massive.
100%, but it's got to be bigger than Smith Mountain.
Yeah, 100%.
Huge.
Yeah, the place is massive. So I don't know the exact specs on it, but it's just and the main lake isn't super big. Like it's long, but it's the creeks. Like you'll go into a creek and it'll go back, I don't know, 10 to 20 miles. Like it's unreal. So it's definitely probably one of the hardest lakes to practice on. There's a lot of just do nothing bank, like clay banks, and you're like, oh, there can't be a fish over there. Then you idle over and there's a school of 30. Like it's a very difficult lake to figure out, but once you get on them, it's a really good pattern lake.
What makes that place so difficult right now? Is it just the fluctuation of the water being that its primary reason for existing?
I think so. I think that your normal water level is, I believe, at like 300. And I mean, you mix in spawning fish and fluctuating water, it's going to make it just, the fish could be anywhere from, in inches of water up to 20, 25 foot. So that's, I think, what is going to make it very difficult.
What now that we're getting into May, what are those fish generally doing right now?
It's the same thing. You'll have some fish that are right in the middle of the spawn, and you'll have some fish that are done spawning, and you might still have some fish that are pre-spawn that haven't moved up yet. In Virginia, I know, especially on the river, we catch spawning fish from April to June. So these fish spawn a lot longer than people think. So you're gonna have fish in all three phases.
Wow. What are the water temperatures right now that you're seeing?
I'm seeing, I think when Matt and I went out, 62, 61, 62, around there. I think you're going to see, I think there's some arms where you could see some water even in the 59s, and then all the way up to probably 55 or 65 up to maybe 68 right now. So because the lake's so big, it could be just different in every creek you go into.
What's absolutely interesting to me about that is it's an absolutely massive lake, but the weights, it's 17 pounds, 18 pounds. I have BFL stats up right here, and I was trying to go back, and it's hard to find times when everyone's in the top 5 have like 20 pounds. I mean, this is not a place that you're going to go up there and it's going to be a quote unquote slugfest.
I don't think the size of the lake really has too much to do with that, to be honest, because, well, all right, first of all, we can go with fishing pressure because that place sees 3 tournaments every Saturday and Sunday from March until October. And I think that just makes big fish extremely difficult to catch. I don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of another, like, what's another lake that's really big that is just like, you go smash them? I guess Smith Mountain?
Yeah.
But that is a different fishery overall.
So yeah.
Like, I don't know.
And that's what's confusing to me is the fact that Matt, you fish Chesden once or twice, right? And so that's a smaller lake near Richmond, and it still can produce some donkeys. And if you had to pick which one would have a better bag, if it was a 100-boat tournament, I would assume probably Chesden. You have a better chance of cracking a 20-pound bag. So that's a smaller lake,
100%.
But still it produces absolutely insane weight. And that thing you've never heard of. But then Chesden, and I'm sorry, Kerr. And maybe it's because of the size. We have so many BFLs there, so many cat tournaments, now Bass Opens. All these tournaments go there. It's almost like the Beaver Lake for tournament fishing in our area. People go there, but it's not the place that I really would want to go on the schedule. And I'm confused as to like why it underperforms like it does. It doesn't make any sense. It's a tough nut to crack. It really is.
It has whooped me so many times. The last ABI I fished, I finally made some money, and it you could have told me I won the Bassmaster Classic. It was like that. I don't know if I think it is, like we keep saying, the size is very difficult. I mean, you're only, like, for me, my only fish were 10 miles apart from each other. I had 2 areas. So it's like you're running for, half your day just going back and forth to your spots. So it makes it a tough tournament. Like, but also with all these tournaments, the fish get shuffled around so much. Like you'll have like this week, we have a Bassmaster Opens going out of Okanichi.
Yep.
Okanichi. And then the BFL is going out of Nutbush. So they're going to bring all the fish up to Okanichi. And then we're going to go to Nutbush. We're going to bring all the fish back down. So it's just, you have all these tournaments and it's just throwing fish all over the lake that it makes it very, very interesting.
How much do you think the blueback will play and a lot of this pelagic fish moving around?
I think it'll start coming more into play the further into spring we get. The warmer the water gets, the more fish that spawn and move back offshore and start chasing bait around. I mean, I can tell you, I scoped a couple this weekend on the res, and they're probably slightly behind Kerr. It's, 200 miles difference. Yeah, there's already fish kind of on those big bait balls that you can chase around. I definitely think Kerr is further ahead of the res in that sense. So I have a feeling that if you can go out and look around and find that, you might do pretty well for yourself.
I also wonder how much, and guys, so if you don't know about the res, or the res about Kerr, it does fluctuate a lot. It's usually, just like we said, it's about at 300 level. It's up there. I think it's at 304, 302. Don't quote me on that. You can let me know in the comment section if I'm wrong. And so that puts it up in the bushes. And so the bushes are usually going to be in play there. The only issue I have with that is that going to be consistent? Is that going to be actually the consistent bite? With the water fluctuating so much, I don't know what is going to happen if you're going to try to be looking for spawners or that pre-spawn bite. Are you going to actually go up in the bushes and try to risk that? Or knowing that may or may not last 4 days or 3 days, are you going to be looking just for those fish that are in that in-between area? What do you guys think?
So, for example, on the first day of Opens practice, the water level was at, I believe, 301. And right now it's at 303.5. And that was last Friday. Today's what, Monday? So that's 3 days. The lake has risen 2 feet. So like that is already going to make it insane. So if it's me, I think the way I think, and it's coming from a tidal fishery mindset, when we have a flood tide, I think that those fish go explore places that they can't usually fish, or go. Like these fish there's places that they may have never been. So I think when that water goes up, they're going to go try and find something new, something they haven't seen. And then, so I'd be looking at the bank first off. I know Matt's probably going to be scoping it either way, but that would be me. I'd probably go to the bank and see what moves up.
Yeah, I think there's going to be a huge portion of anglers because even when I was a kid fishing high school tournaments, all the old timers were talking about the bushes at Kerr, and that's where you get lasered in. So if you're not a local, I think you're going to be allured to go to the bushes and try to find those fish. But I wonder how spread out that's going to make them, and if that's going to be consistent. I think you can catch them, but I think scoping and looking for the hard structure or those fish that are chasing bait, I think that's going to be the consistent plan there, 100%. And that's interesting you talked about Nutbush, because there are so many creeks in the area of Virginia that you could literally fish the Chick on the James, Nutbush, Mattawoman. I mean, those 3 places, that's all you need to fish, and you could probably cash checks. It's insane how we have on these 3 fisheries such unique areas that all the fish get dumped in or taken out of. When it comes to the Chick, I guess they get taken out of the Chick. How does that deal with the pressure when you fish a tournament, knowing that there are areas that are there's going to be about 500 boats, but there is a winning population? How does that factor into your decision making?
So for me, the way that these 2 tournaments are setting up with the Open and the BFL, I like fishing up the lake. That's where I feel more comfortable. That's where I've caught fish in the past. So these people bringing all the fish back to Okanichi, which is up the lake, it sets up a lot better for I'm practicing. I'll probably only be up the lake. I probably won't spend any time in Nutbush anytime, Eastland, those creeks, I'm going to stay upriver because I feel like they're going to dump they're not going to take that, release boat that far. They're not running that thing all over the lake. So they're going to dump it close to Okanichi. So I think those fish aren't going to go far, especially in the spawn. They're probably going to look for the best bank they can find that's closest to them. So that's how I'm going to practice. I don't know what your plan is.
I mean, that makes the most sense if you think about it. You have 225 boat open out of the state
Good
park.
God.
3 days. Okay, so 2 days there's 225 boats, right?
Yeah, top 10 fish the last day. I
Okay,
think.
so that's however many 2,500 fish if everyone catches a limit.
Yeah.
I guess something around there, and they bring those back every day. And like you said, they're not taking that release boat anywhere. Probably drive out like a quarter mile and just dump all the fish. So there's going to be a lot of fish there. That's never a bad plan. How many times have you heard about going and catching retreads? Like, go to where the launches are.
But Matt, fish. Why does that?
I hate like.
Oh, finish your thought. Sorry.
Sorry. I was saying I just don't. The thought of catching already caught fish, to me, I don't know why, it just bugs me. Like I'll do it, but
you're targeting the smart. You're targeting the smartest fish in the lake because they're so fresh. Like they got caught a week ago.
Yeah. Like
they know what a bait. They know what they got caught on, and they're probably not going to eat it.
Okay, I'm glad, Matt. I'm so glad you said this. So I've heard people talk about this before about retreads. I don't want to fish retreads, and I want genuinely your opinion on this, because you look at some of these Japanese anglers that have 2 lakes in their whole damn country, and they'll just drive off the boat ramp and they win. And you can do it, but over here in America, there's this weird connotation. It's like, oh, you fish in Mattawoman. It's like, that doesn't count as being successful. They're, they get dumped there all the time. Talk to me about that. Your mindset with that.
I don't know. Maybe it's the whole entire thing. Like, fishing out of a boat, right? You take your boat to the boat ramp and you drive off and leave the boat ramp to find fish. I mean, it's probably more counterproductive than it is productive the majority of the time, but I think that's quite possibly something that's been drilled into my head subconsciously since I started fishing. It's like, why would I sit here at the boat ramp, even though it probably has the most fish when I have this boat? But yeah, I don't know. I think there's definitely something about going into an area that's like a huge community hole and fishing. One, if there's a ton of boats around, I immediately am already like, I don't want to fish around a ton of people. But again, in these situations, sometimes you have to, right?
Yeah.
Like unless you can find something that is like so off the wall and different, where there's not a ton of other boats. But when you have 600 boats out from 3 different tournaments on a Saturday that you're competing in, sometimes it's hard to get away.
So a perfect example of that was this past weekend. We had, I fished a tournament on the Chickahominy, and we had the college series going out of Osborne. They had 275 boats, college series. And we had probably 5 or 6 more tournaments on the Chick, and probably one out of Hope. So, and the fish are spawning, and everyone knows on the Chick, when the fish are spawning, they're on trees, because that's the hard cover. So that's how you win. That's how you win this time of year, is you flip trees. So you had probably 250 boats in the Chick alone, all fishing trees. So that's to prove that point, that sometimes it's just part of what you have to do.
I also think it's mindset too, of growing up, my home water being sadly the tidal Potomac. You learn how to fish in bumper to bumper traffic, for better or worse. And I had a great conversation with Chris Gorsuch, Susquehanna Guide Service, about boat ethics. And if you had to teach a high school course about how to be respectful, and we really, in that conversation, got to the point, like, it really depends on the body of water, because what you would do on the Reservoir, or which is Occoquan, guys, if you didn't know, or Kerr, you probably couldn't do in April on the Potomac River. Like, and that's so hard. And I really does think it gets down to your mindset of being able to fish with people around you and dealing with it. And also, I think this is why guys that grow up fishing tidal bodies of water kick ass in Florida. They know if they have to fish a grass flat with 500 other boats, they're like, yeah, I can make this work. But yeah, that's so fascinating to me, getting that information. Guys, let me know in chat right now. Do you fish? Are you okay with fishing in crowds if you cash a check, or are you just going to eat it, burn $200 worth of gas, and just get away from everybody? Let me know in chat right now why, if you're good with it, and if you're not. How did you two meet?
That's actually a really funny story. So I'll admit, I was a fan. And I saw Matt, the Richmond
Expo.
Yeah, Richmond Expo. I saw Matt, and I just went up and, shook his hand, introduced myself. And I think we kind of just chatted up, texting, Instagram. And then we finally got out probably 2021, somewhere in there.
Yeah, when I moved down here.
Yeah. And he moved down to Richmond, and pretty much just been fishing together ever since.
And you guys are you guys touring buddies for, if I'm not mistaken, is it the Piedmont division of the BFLs, correct?
Yep. Yeah, we travel together for those.
And I think this is really important for people that maybe want to take a crack at the BFLs. How does that work when you have multiple guys? Let's say metaphorically you're sharing a house. How do you break down a lake as a team to do it efficiently before a tournament? And just generic stuff.
So I think we did pretty good at Smith Mountain. We kind of left each other, like, we went and did whatever we felt like was right during the day. Like, I would go fish my stuff, Matt would go fish his stuff. And a lot of time there was a couple times we ended up in the same creek, like, just out of pure coincidence. And so obviously, I mean, we're sharing a house together. We're going to talk about how our day went. So we would talk, and if there was something that, I felt would be valuable to him, I'd tell him, if he would tell me. And I think it's important to we didn't step on each other's toes at all. Like, if he had a creek that he really liked, I told him, I was like, you won't see me in there. Like, that's all you. Like, go smash him in there. And I think, he would do the same thing to me. So
for sure. I think as far as like information and sharing and stuff, like, we both fished our own ways throughout practice, but it was like, we'd share water temps that we'd see, watercolor, what baits were working, what baits were not working, what we were catching them on, things that I would find or see that I think would be helpful for someone, hunter. That's what I would share with them. I think that's like a pretty big thing too. Like, if you're going off of, if he's telling me like, oh, I'm catching him on jerk baits on these shallow rocky points, like, if I just solely go do that, I'm not going to be able to grow from that and like put a secondary plan together. And bouncing these things off of each other throughout the few practice days up to the tournament, I think makes like a huge difference. And it's important not to like fully go off of what each other are doing.
And it's giving enough information that you can help, but not getting so dialed in. And this is my view on it. If you're too dialed into somebody else's fish, it's not going to work. You can't fish other people's fish. It's so freaking hard. And talking to guys like in the Florida side of things, it's so important though to get people to travel with to help you break down. If you're going down to the Harris chain, there is no way in hell one person can break down on those lakes. You need to have that community set up, and learning how to take information and give information to the trusted friend group it's so freaking important, I think, in this day and age to have success. I mean, look what they're doing at the Bass Opens. I mean, they're information sharing, and there's nothing wrong with that. The stigma, it's just how you share information that's important.
I mean, even in the elites, I saw a post today from Carl Jocumsen where he was like thanking Gussie for hooking him up with this. Yeah. Yep. Because he'd helped him like a couple of years ago, I guess, when they were there. And, I'm sure there's guys like that in basically every series that has any sort of fishing tournament. You travel with buddies or you make friends when you're out there and help each other out in that sense.
I think that's one of the biggest, like, that's why we all fish. Like, we love just chopping it up with our buddies. Like, oh, I caught him doing this. How'd you catch him? So I think that's just part of the fun. Like, me and Matt, we're both not big information guys. Like, going up to a tournament, we don't talk to anyone. We're not texting people, hey, what are they eating here? Like, I have people reach out to me. They're like, oh, I heard you're going to Bugs. Like, I'll tell you, what you should do. I'm like, I'd rather figure it out by myself. That's just how him and I roll. So when we get down there, it's pretty much with a open mind, and we just go from there and see what we can figure out.
How does your styles do they complement or are they completely different? I'm assuming we're not dealing with just completely offshore and John Cox, like just completely oil and vinegar here. Did your styles both complement each other, or it's completely different so you're not fishing each other's fish, so to speak?
That's an interesting one.
It is. Because I definitely would say over the last 2 years, I've gotten way more comfortable fishing offshore, obviously with live scope. But Hunter fishing the river is just a beast shallow. Like, it's almost perfect practice-wise. Because I know we'll hit things that I will be like, okay, I'm going to be looking deeper on points, secondary points, channel swings, stuff like that. Like any sort of cover that I can find. I love fishing brush piles and stuff in like that mid-range. And yeah, that's like what I would focus on. Because I think that's what will like win you one.
Yeah.
Like you'll be able to catch 5 big ones doing that. But then if you miss that shallow bite, like if it's not happening, which a lot of the times it's not, you got to stumble on it just right. But like the shallow bite, you get on that and you can really put something big together.
Matt fishes a lot of stuff that I would never even think to fish. Like I remember last year we were practicing for the James River BFL, and I'm going down the lake and I see these 2, how tall are they? 300 foot, 500 foot tall?
They're tall.
Giant power lines that are going into the water, and they have huge pilings, and I see a boat, and I'm like, I'm probably 2 miles away, and I see a boat, and I'm like, the only person I know dumb enough to stop and go fish those pilings is Matt. Sure enough, it's him, and I pull up, and he's catching fish off these pilings, and I'm like, I would never in a million years be driving by those power lines and think, oh, let me throw a cast over there.
There were so many fish in those power lines too. It was sick.
It's stuff like that that'll definitely benefit us both. Like I'm sure there's banks that I stop on that Matt's like, I would never stop on that bank.
For sure.
And then so that definitely helps us, rolling together.
How did you know was it something specific about the power lines that clued you into that?
Yeah, please tell us.
Okay, all right, boys. It's summertime, right? We're out on the river. I have this deep thought since I started the Potomac River, that in the summertime, you always see the weights go down and no one can catch big ones. And it's like, where do those fish go? They go offshore somewhere. There are fish offshore in tidal rivers that no one targets, or they're very quiet about it. We'll say that. So it's something that I've started to try messing around with. And I saw those and I was like, I have no idea how deep they are, but I'm just going to go graph around them real quick and look. And one of them is like, not on a flat, but it's a little bit shallower. It's like 8 to 10 feet. And it was loaded with fish. There was a ton of bait. I caught a couple striper. I caught a couple like 2 to 3 pounders. I caught one like right when you rolled up. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I don't know. I think things like that people will not stop and fish or look at. They're like, no, that's dumb. It's in the middle. It's the middle of the river. I don't know. Could be something hot that could win you a tournament one day.
It's so interesting though that we get into these mindsets as anglers. So I mean, you think the Potomac River? Everyone that's outside our area that asks about the Potomac River, they just think strictly chatterbait. Mm-hmm. But then you think about how many tournaments are won on a drop shot or a shaky head and finesse.
Majority of them in the summer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's finesse fishing,
and it doesn't. And it's just thinking outside the box of like, well, even though this is, a power fishing just absolutely dream, you got to think outside the box. You looking at the place more like a lake, I would assume. And like, okay, why wouldn't they be here? Why wouldn't this work? I've destroyed them on the Potomac on a spy bait on a highly pressured submerged flat. It's like, why wouldn't it works, for smallmouth and it works for other places. Why wouldn't it work here? But we get in our minds like it can't because this is just how it is. And again, I challenge people that are listening, like just think outside the box. You don't want to really put yourself into these like little forms that this is how it has to be, whether it's with spinning tackle, whatever bait you're throwing. If you're the first one to do it, you'll be rewarded for it 100%. What do we got here in the comment section? Don't blow up Pohick spot. It's a damn creek. I'm not blowing up a damn creek. I'm just saying I caught him in Pohick. Good Lord. And I just did blow up the spy bait. I don't care. You still got to figure it out. But there's some tips for you. But yeah, God, you guys are just crazy. I love you guys, but you guys are absolutely crazy. Anyway, one thing about the live scope, and not to go into this completely, Matt, I'd love to have you back on again so we could do a proper biopic on your journey. what is fascinating to me is how everybody assumes, and I don't know how much you've gotten this in your comment section, probably a lot, that clearly that means you're sniping every damn fish that you see. And that's how you're winning every tournament. To me, with live scope, there's so many side benefits to do it with scope that people don't talk about, whether it's just seeing if there's bait. I knew in the area I found in Pohick, there was a ton of just small bait balls. I thought they were snakehead fry. Without live scope, I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't have switched to a small crankbait and absolutely killed them. That did not snipe a single fish, but that right there told me that there was bait in the area. I needed to stay put and grind it out. You never hear that enough, but it's always, if you have scope on your boat, clearly all you're doing is you're sight fishing all day. Like, why are people so narrow-minded with it?
Because they haven't used it.
There you go.
The people that just talk shit about it and are like, that's why you're winning all the tournaments, that's why you're doing so good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely a portion of it, but it's also extremely hard. And like, you might only go out and get 5 or 6 bites a day, but it's the right 5 or 6 bites. If I catch one of like the 100 fish that I see, I'm like, that was a good day. Like, that was pretty good. I casted so many that just chase it, or like, are lazy, or just want to look at it, or get spooked off by it completely, that, getting one to actually react in a positive manner, it's like, all right, let's do it.
Did making the move outside of Richmond, did that really help you with your live scope game, being able to have different lakes to play around with and not just, having the tidal Potomac and the res in your backyard?
I didn't have it when I was living up there, so it's hard to say, but I definitely have learned quite a bit at the res. Like that, the Occoquan Reservoir is somewhere I would say that I know the best. Like, I'm most comfortable fishing there just because I have the most of my time out there. So being able to add the live scope to that and the way the place sets up, I learned quite a bit. But being down this way, Chesden, spend a lot of time on Chesden just because I know there's big fish in there, and scoping a lot out there. But I don't know. Besides that, I guess like I'm on the Chick and the James a little bit here and there. It's harder to. I don't scope as much when I'm there. I don't know.
I scope more when I'm there.
Yeah.
Because that's something that I've figured out on the Chick, and I don't turn my live scope off at all. Like, even if I'm going to Chick Lake and it's 2 foot deep, I have the live scope on, and I have found so many brush piles. I have found so many pods of bait fish. Obviously, bass aren't going to show up great in 2 or 3 foot of water, but so many times I have found things that help me catch fish using live scope in 3 to even 1 foot of water. And I think it's something that a lot of people aren't utilizing on those types of lakes and reservoirs, but that tool, and it's just a tool. It has so many more uses than it's getting used for.
Oh, 100%. And it's absolutely crazy that people don't think outside the box more. And I think that's such a weird issue with bass fishing, where you're taught at a young age not to think outside the box, and especially with the old school anglers. And I think that's what you're seeing with a lot of these new school anglers that are able to dive into the information gathering and being able to then experiment and gamble. And that's why you're seeing this huge explosion in young anglers. I mean, look at Milliken example. I know he's not a young stud, but he's taking all this stuff, bringing it together, and then he's able to think outside the box, which is absolutely, it's just fascinating to watch. And bring it back to Kerr Reservoir here, and looking through the chat here. And don't worry, guys, I'll get to your questions at the end. I just want to make sure we have these really cool anglers here. I want to make sure we use their time wisely. With Kerr, and then you've got the BFL, and then you're going back. How does that affect you mentally with your tournament coming up? This place is going to get pounded. Are you going into it already thinking that you're going to make these adjustments? You don't have to tell me the adjustments now, but is it affecting your strategy at all, knowing this place is going to get beat up?
100%. And the way I'm going into it is I'm thinking, I mean, the thing with the opens, guys, and I say it, I truly believe it's the toughest tournament trail in the world. They find everything. There is nothing on Kerr that is going to be that. There's no stone that will be left unturned. So there's not even really any thinking outside the box going into this tournament. Like that's how you would think you have to go into it, but no matter what you do, they have done it, and they have done it probably 40,000 times in the span of 8 days. So I don't even know. I'm just gonna go fishing. Like that's.
I think that lake sees so much pressure. Those fish are just used to it. Like truly, I think that like yeah, you're fishing a pressured fishery, but it's not like it just like something just opened up and there's like a ton of tournaments there. Those fish are literally born and raised and like grow to whatever point they grow to, experiencing 500 boats every Saturday, Sunday, 10 months out of the year, and being fished for.
Yeah, I'm interested, you know, and hopefully, guys, I have a call into the Virginia Department of Wildlife Resources. I'm trying to get a DWR guy that runs that lake to come on and talk about the bait fish populations, because I keep hearing ad nauseum on forums and stuff that I've been going through this week about the blueback there. I don't think the blueback are there yet as heavy as they are in other lakes. I think in 5 to 10 years it'll play. And then you have the spotted bass, and the bass podcast was talking about the spotted bass a little bit there. I don't think the spots are going to play as hard as like a Gaston necessarily. And again, this could be a whole nother show is about the whole Gaston thing, but like the spots on Gaston, night and day different than Kerr. I do not think that's going to be a hard play, but I could be wrong about that.
I don't think you'll see. I think you'll obviously see spotted bass weighed in, but they're going to be like accidental catches. It's not going to be I don't think anyone's going to be targeting spotted bass as a way to, cash a check or win. Like you're not winning with spotted bass there.
And I'm going through the comment section. Oh, we got so many comments. What is it? Yo, Tom, dude, learn how to spell. Yo, Tom, did you have a rubber band on your mag? Oh, how the hell did you pick that up so fast? Yeah, I did. I'm not talking about this yet because I don't know if it works. I've been throwing a rubber band on here because every time you skip the damn thing, it explodes. So I've been experimenting with just putting a rubber band on it. And that way I have all 3 hook points exposed.
Genius. I'm literally today, I've been racking my brain all day of like, I need to buy a magnet, an extra magnet I can shove into this mag draft, like, or thinking about what else I can do to keep that treble hook pinned up in the belly. The rubber band crossed my mind like 10 times. I was like, nah, it's not going to work. Maybe it will work. I bet it will. You have to let me know.
Let me try first, because before you do that and it screws you in a tournament because it doesn't work, let me actually hook a few more with it. Because I tried to do a 4-prong hook, but the problem is I think that the more prongs of the hook you put in there, the less hook force you have per point. And I just don't know if adding another point and then really gumming it in there. Because I've gone through a couple of mag drafts already because you keep shoving it back in and it just completely destroys it.
Oh yeah.
I've probably gone through 50 mag drafts.
Good God.
That's probably my favorite bait, like of all
That's
time.
about $6,000 right there.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. But to me, like in my opinion, like once that magnet's gone, it's hard to make that bait do what you need it to do. So that's why I go through them so fast. Is once I lose the magnet, I'm like, well, because I mean, like you said, you can only tuck the bait up in the belly so many times before it's going to start ripping. And I skip. That's when I throw a mag draft the most, is skipping docks, skipping, stuff like that. So that hook is not going to stay in the belly. It's going to come out every single skip, unless you have that mag draft, which is going to, catch that hook when you start swimming it. But I go through a lot of mag drafts because of that.
I'm wondering how well that's actually going to play the swim bait bite on Kerr. I mean, I really, in my gut, says it's not a Smith Mountain Lake kind of deal. I just don't see it going to be like there. Do you guys think the swim bait's going to play at all?
It might. I mean, I'll definitely throw it around a little bit. I think a big thing with that mag draft bite is that clear water. I really do. I think it draws fish from like way further away than you think. I mean, I've seen it on the scope, like watching it come back under a dock and like see a fish from 20 feet away, see it at like the last second, and he like shoots up to it and smokes it. I was on Norman last weekend and I had like a really fun 3 days of throwing mag drafts. Like probably caught 15 on it the first day, and they were small spots, like nothing even big, biggest maybe 3 pounds, but they were going nuts over it. It was insane.
Didn't you also? You had a fun time with was it Cruise? That was like a couple weeks ago, probably too. But I don't. The days
Yeah.
blur together.
Yeah, that was probably in early March. It was early March because I fished Smith Mountain Lake. It was like an English choice event. And then the next day I met up with Cruz and we fished a small lake. That was a lot of fun. He's a really good dude. It was the first time meeting him and hopped on my boat. Honestly, I haven't told anybody this, but it was funny because the way it was set up, like we texted back and forth a little bit, but it was really set up through my friends over at English Choice. And I was under the assumption that he was going to bring his boat. And mine was like a complete mess from the tournament the day before. Like not ready. I didn't even charge my batteries because I stayed at a friend's house. And like I showed up to the lake and I'm just waiting for him. And like a truck pulls up and I was like, oh my God, I got to clean the boat real fast. Like this is I felt terrible. I was like, yeah, hopefully the batteries will, keep us going all day. My bad. But it turned out being really good. It was a lot of fun. I learned a lot. Caught some fish.
That is so cool. And then guys, again, link in the episode description, everything we talk about today, including both their their social media handles. I do have one question for Matt before we put a bow on things. So I don't want to keep you guys too long. Matt, what's your favorite style of finesse, Matt? Love a shaky head, but getting into the deep to the drop shot, I can read drop shot this year and it's producing.
I think a drop shot is probably my number one finesse bait after last year. Just really getting it dialed in with the scope and really focusing a lot on throwing it. I would take the drop shot over a shaky head, to be honest, even though coincidentally I had this conversation with John Cruz that day and he was like, I throw a shaky head way more than a drop shot because I think fish are just way more like they want to eat it off the bottom more times than not because they're not looking up at it and seeing it. It's like below them. So they'll know something's there and like they might follow it and eat it more out of because they can't see it fully. So that kind of changed my mind on it. And I'm going to definitely experiment more with it this summer.
I think the shaky head is replacing the jig in a lot of ways. I really do. I think when I've had so many Carolina anglers talk about skipping a jig. So it's like, okay, so if the whole state of North Carolina and South Carolina are skipping a jig, those bass are probably getting conditioned to that. And I was talking to Billy Coles of Smith Mountain Lake Guide Services about this, about how it seems like the jig bite is not what it used to be, but you pick up a shaky head, those same places they work. And Matt, I'm so glad you said this about distance. There's something about the drop shot that people think the leader has to be 10 feet long. And Aaron Martin has talked about, he had a tiny ass leader on that thing.
I literally know exactly what you're talking about. And so many people that I've fished with have been like, wow, you fish a really short drop shot. I'm like, especially, in the winter, I'm like, yeah, Aaron Martin's did this video. He's like, in the winter, he makes it really short. Like sometimes just as short as the worm or even shorter. And as it gets warmer, you can make it longer. But that has somehow led to me doing like a 10 to 12 inch max drop shot leader.
Dude, that video is a blast from the past. You're bringing back some memories about that. I mean, he's the only one that made me think pink worms are actually sexy and will work. It's because of that stupid magic. Goodness gracious, guys. Yeah, again, I don't want to keep you too long tonight. Thank you so much for coming on. I would love to get you guys on at some point to do a post tournament with you guys on your next BFL, just how it went, what you guys think you did well, what you want to improve on, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Hopefully we catch a bass or two.
Hunter's going to have that first place trophy right here on the next podcast for sure.
Okay, but
I'll take second.
Give me some predictions.
That is the thing about us is Matt is one of my best friends. We talk just about every day. There is no one in the world I want to beat more than this guy, and I know he feels the exact same way.
I'll take second place only if you win, though.
Yeah, that only if I win. If he wins, there's no one that's going to be happier. But if he doesn't win, I want to beat him bad.
Oh my goodness, I know that feeling. Predictions, guys. Give me some predictions on the Bass Opens, and then of course your BFL coming up here in 2 weeks.
I want to hear what you say because I know I've talked to a lot of the pros and they've asked me, and I have what I think. So I'm curious what you're gonna say.
3 days.
3 days. Yeah.
I'm gonna say 45 pounds
to win.
to win.
Okay. I was higher. I'm at I think 52, 53 is where I'm at. I think around 16 to 18 a day is going to win. I think that lake has so many 2 and 3 pounders. Not that they're going to be easy to catch, but I think you're going to see so many people. Like you might see 200 boats in that 12 to 15 range. Like there's going to be so many bags in that range that I think 4, 5, 6 pounders are so hard to come by that someone's going to figure that out and catch, 16 to 18 a day.
Yeah, and David Williams, yes, they're both fishing as boaters. I think it's probably going to be about 40, I think 42, maybe 45. That lake is so weird. There's a ton of boats, and I don't think there's a lot of 5 and 6 pound fish in there. I just don't. And again, do I fish a lot? No, but I've gone through the archives of like the BFLs that are on that lake, and it's just not, I don't know. Could be wrong because the water is in the bushes. I think if it wasn't in the bushes, I don't think the weights would be very high at all. I think it'd be a lot harder to fish that place. Now, your BFL, what do you think?
To win, I'm at BFL. You get a lot, like you'll have a lot of locals in the open, but BFL, you'll have 70% locals probably. I'm going to say for a 1-day shootout, I'm going to say 16 and a half to 17, somewhere in that range to win.
Wow.
I was thinking 18.
18.
Yeah.
18.
Yeah. I mean, for a 1-day shootout, someone can stumble. Yeah. And I think first day of the Bassmaster Open, we will see someone will have 20. I think someone will have 20, and then you'll see the weights drop, day 2, day 3. But there will be 1 or 2 20-pound bags weighed, in my opinion.
Do you think anyone cracks 22, 23 pounds?
I don't think that much. I think 20 is definitely possible. I want to say I fished an English Choice event there a few weeks ago, and I think the first day was 20 pounds. What won it? It was like 20 and a half. So it's definitely...
That 20,
you'll see a 20-pound bag.
I wouldn't say 20 is
over. I wouldn't say over 21.
Yeah, I wouldn't say 20 is like a unicorn bag by any means. Like 20 pounds happens out there. Like it's nothing that's like crazy, but you don't really see 22, 23, 24 out there. So I think that someone will crack a big bag, and then I could see a couple 20s coming in throughout the tournament.
I'm interested to see. I mean, this is the last question. I'm sorry, I keep this just popped in there. What lake would you want to see a big tournament like this on? Because to me, it's like no one talks about Smith. Maybe that's good, doesn't get the pressure, but I think Smith would just smoke this place when it comes to bags brought in. I mean, there was, I think, 2 7-pounders brought in at the last BFL. Like, it's insane how that lake produces. But like, where would you guys want to see something like this? Hunter, you can't say the James. It's already done that.
I do not want to see a tournament on the James. Stay away,
not
please.
Again. There's so many. No, I think Smith Mountain Lake would be pretty sick.
That'd be really
it would be awesome to see that like tiered angler, the 225 of those guys out there really just breaking it down. I think it'd be pretty sick. You'd see some really big bags.
I think
a lot of big fish.
Without going into like logistics and stuff, because I know there's so much that goes with putting these 250 boat tournaments on. I think Smith Mountain, you put them on Smith Mountain in April, it's the weights, like you saw on the BFL, the weights would be insane. I think you could see like Toledo Bend type numbers come out of Smith Mountain Lake. Like you could see a 28-pound bag come out of there and stuff like that. And I think without looking at logistics, I'd like to see them go to like, I don't think they would fit, but like Anna would be really cool. Because Anna, I mean,
that would be sporty.
Yeah, if you put, I mean, I don't know if it would handle 250 boats, but
you get 1 dock each.
if you in rotation.
Yes.
McCluskey was catching 30 pounds.
That McCluskey catches 30 pounds every weekend.
You're right, but like they're catching 30 pounds out there. Like that's, I mean, it was the winter time and stuff, but there's not many places that's happening. So I'd like to see, a big tournament trail. Like, I mean, the elites could go there. They only have 80, 90, 100 boats. So
that would be cool.
That would be really cool.
I would like Duckett to get it together and get the MLF guys because they break their fields down. I think,
Yep.
Chad, help me out. It's either 30 or 40 boat. I don't know what it is per
40.
day. Roanoke Rapids and Lake Gaston, and rotate them. They did it for all those lakes around Charlottesville, North Carolina. They should do that for those two places because Roanoke, that's another place I need to do a hidden, just a nice little breakdown of because that's a neat lake that no one fishes and it's there.
So John, I don't know if you've heard, we've got a trail around here called John Boat Elite, and it's horsepower restricted. They go, I think, to all 9 places. They have some on the river. I think they go to Gaston. They went to Roanoke Rapids, I think, for their first event last year, and it was some of the craziest weights I've ever seen. I know my buddy Travis Crowell, he's down in Texas now. I think he had 2 pounds on day 1 and came back with like 20 something on day 2 and won the tournament. The weights for the single days were just insane.
That's so crazy. Again, it's like there's so many lakes in Virginia. And I could do a whole episode on that about the electric boat culture, which I want to do because I was talking to Jeff Little at iCash last year. And apparently, this is allegedly what he said, that the 2 hot spots for electric motors is Georgia and Virginia because they have so many electric motor-only lakes.
For sure.
And it's insane because no one talks about that, but that's the next big thing. Kayak fishing is cool and all, but you can't do that with a buddy unless you're going to get real intimate on them on a Hobie 14. Yeah. Electric motor is where it's at.
Yep. It is. No, I've actually fished a couple of the RLOS events, like Rip and Lips Open Series. They're electric only. Highly recommended to anybody watching. Like, they put on such a good tournament. There was like 70 boats. In the 2 that I fished, they pull huge fields, like over 50 boats. It's not as like the way I pictured it, like, it's electric only. Everyone blasts off. It's like you're riding next to each other, except for the guys that have the real high powered, fast electric motors. But I had this strange feeling. It was like you're fishing literally shoulder to shoulder with everybody all day. And we fished. The first one I fished was on Diaskin. And I feel like I didn't see a boat all day. When there was 70 people, it was sick. Or 70 boats, rather. So like 140 people fishing. Nuts.
And honest, and you can scratch the itch, and it's highly, highly competitive. And with boats getting as expensive they are and all that, I just don't, there's got to be a breaking point. Like, you can't, and I get it, guys. And this is a whole other conversation, but it's $100,000 to get into this thing. I think electric motor only tournaments and kayak series, that's where it's at. That's where all the money's going. Just look at the industry. And so I think it's interesting to see where this actually goes. I think Jay Kumar, he has this Bass Blaster email thing. Some company just made like a $50,000 electric motor only bass boat, and he took a picture of it. I'll put it in the thread at some point, but it's just insane. But the point is, like, companies are now looking at this and understanding the fact that this is a thing that's going on.
Yep. And then you have boat builders like Matt Downs from Trick Tins, who's making, I mean, you can drop 10 grand and you have the baddest electric John boat out. And like, we have to spend, 50, 60, 70, thousands and thousands of dollars to compete with the best. So it's so much more affordable. I mean, 10 grand sounds like a lot for a John boat, but when you're fishing for a couple grand every weekend, same money that we're fishing for, you want to have the best. So you could spend way less and have the best than, the glass rigs.
No, 100%, 100%. And again, guys, link in the episode description, everything we talked about there. Matt, Hunter, please take a second here and just promote your sponsors, anything else, any websites, anything that you've have coming up.
HPS Fishing.
HPS Fishing.
At HPS Fishing on Instagram and YouTube. Go check them out.
Yep, grinding the YouTubes. Sponsor wise, Fish and Protec's been with me since the beginning. Picked up, with Oliver Nye last year, Big Bass Dreams, and teamed up with Barry from Intuition Fishing, and he's got some awesome tungsten stuff. But yeah, grinding the YouTubes, grinding the Instagrams, HPS Fishing, and that's me.
He's sponsored. Follow him.
Sponsor. What about you? You got a couple sponsors.
I do, and I wouldn't be able to do anything without him, actually. So huge shout out and thank you to both English Choice and Trick Tins. Matt Downs built the amazing King Neptune, and he's building crazy boats every month. It seems like now he's popping them out so quick. He just did one for Fisher Yin, and it's like a 1436, pretty small John boat, but
It's insane.
it looks amazing. I mean,
insane.
phenomenal. It's so cool. Yeah, between those two, those are my what do we call them? The golden sponsors.
Well, I think the way that me and Matt are about is like, I won't promote anyone that I don't feel like is the best in that category for me. Like Fishing Protect, Big Bass Streams, Intuition, they all fit me perfectly. I know the owners. I can pick up the phone at any point and they'll answer. So I'm not going to take a BS sponsorship. Neither is Matt. So these are the companies that, like, we physically cannot do it without them. Like, we can't travel to these opens. We're not getting all this tackle, without them. So it's anyone that, we're working with, they're 100% legit and we back them up 100%.
And that's so important to have that trust to be able to, because again, guys, what you don't understand about content creation, you got to have, there's not a lot of money in it, and you're putting a lot of work into basically art. It's your art. It's your passion to do this. And this is your ability to take your creative abilities and match that with fishing. So whether you want to be a content creator and talk about Marvel movies, or you want to do fishing or podcasting or whatever, you're taking that like artistic gene that you have and you're blending that with your passion and getting sponsors that understand that there's art. This is actually art that you're doing, and they're not going to meddle too much. It gives you the creative freedom to be able to keep producing awesome stuff. So, dude, great stuff as always. Guys, thank you so much. Please like and subscribe to them. Again, link in the episode description to everything that we just talked about today. Please like and subscribe to this channel. We are the #1 fishing radio show in the greater D metropolitan area. We might be talking a little bit more, but this live stream is over. See you guys later. Bye. And we are no longer recording.